Imagine if you went for a full week without hearing the sound of a familiar voice or sharing a simple thought with another person. For hundreds of millions of people around the world, this is not a scary story but a daily reality. We are currently living through a silent crisis where 1 in 4 people feel lonely, and 20% of adults feel they have no one to turn to in a moment of need. We often treat social connection as a luxury or a nice bonus in our lives, like the dessert at the end of a meal. We focus on our physical health by going to the gym and our mental health by practicing mindfulness, but we frequently leave our social health at the bottom of the list. However, modern research is showing us something startling. Our relationships are not just about feeling happy. They are actually a biological necessity that determines how long we will live. Being socially disconnected is as dangerous for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It puts you at a much higher risk for heart disease, stroke, and even dementia. This realization changes everything. It means that finding time to talk to a friend is not just leisure, it is a vital part of staying alive. To understand how to fix this, we need to move beyond the surface and look at what it truly means to be socially healthy. On the surface, the problem of loneliness looks like it could be solved by just meeting more people. We think that if we have a lot of followers on social media or if we attend many parties, we are doing well. This is the surface concept of social health, the idea that quantity is the goal. But for many people, especially introverts, being in a large crowd can actually make them feel more alone. Social health is about having the right quantity and quality of connection for you. It is about feeling like you belong to a community, whether that is a group of coworkers, neighbors, or close friends. It is not about being the loudest person in the room, it is about the strength of the threads that tie you to others. If you have only a few deep relationships, you might be much healthier than someone who knows hundreds of people but has no one to call when they are sad. The surface view focuses on the number of contacts, but the real power lies in the depth of the interaction. Behind our struggle to connect, there is a hidden assumption that technology is a perfect substitute for human interaction. We assume that because we can text a friend or scroll through their photos, we are staying connected. We think that AI chatbots or digital assistants can fill the gaps in our lives without any cost. But the data is starting to show a different story. People who spend more time using chatbots for companionship actually report feeling more lonely and less social with real humans. We assume that frictionless technology is always better, but connection often requires a bit of messiness and effort. The hidden assumption is that convenience equals connection, when in fact, the opposite is often true. Real relationships are built in the circuitous routes and the spontaneous moments that technology often tries to eliminate. If we look at the structural pattern of how we live today, we see a pattern of increasing isolation and self-reliance. We have designed our lives to be as independent as possible. We order our groceries online so we do not have to talk to a cashier. We take an Uber instead of asking a friend for a ride because we do not want to be a burden. This structural pattern values efficiency over intimacy. We are losing the small touch points with our neighbors and the casual chats with the barista that make our social life vibrant. When we remove these small frictions, we also remove the opportunities for magic and spontaneous connection. This pattern has led to a society where we have fewer close friends and belong to fewer community groups than ever before. To reverse this, we need to build a new structure in our lives that prioritizes connection over convenience. We can reframe our perspective by seeing ourselves as social scientists who need to exercise our social muscles. Instead of seeing connection as something that should happen naturally, we can see it as a skill that requires intentional practice. Reframing the idea of being a burden is a powerful first step. When you ask a friend for help, you are not just taking from them, you are giving them the opportunity to feel needed and valued. This perspective turns friction into a gift. It shifts the focus from I am a problem to we are a team. This reframe allows us to lean into the discomfort of asking for what we need, knowing that it actually strengthens the relationship. It changes the goal from being perfectly independent to being healthily interdependent. Applying this to our daily life can be done with a simple guideline called the 5-3-1 rule. This means aiming to connect with 5 different people each week, cultivating at least 3 close relationships, and spending 1 hour a day in total connection. These connections do not all have to be long dinners. They can be a 10-minute phone call, a quick text to say I am thinking of you, or a brief conversation with a neighbor. The key is diversity. We need to interact with people who are different from us and who bring out different parts of our personality. We can also build rituals, like a weekly breakfast with a friend, that remove the effort of scheduling. By making connection a habit, we ensure that it does not get pushed to the bottom of our priority list when we get busy. As we go deeper into this reflection, we should consider how our identities shape our social health. Different groups of people face different challenges. For example, many men in certain cultures struggle to maintain social ties outside of their immediate family, often relying entirely on their partners for connection. This creates a fragile social structure. Similarly, young people who grow up with screens are navigating a world where digital connection is the norm, but it often lacks the depth of face-to-face interaction. We must be intentional about creating spaces where everyone feels safe to be vulnerable and ask for support. Social health is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but a personal balance we must each find. It is about recognizing that we are biologically wired for each other. When we invest in our social health, we are not just avoiding loneliness, we are building a foundation for a longer, happier, and more resilient life. It takes courage to reach out, to be a little bit of a burden, and to step outside of our comfort zones. But the reward is a life that is not just long in years, but rich in meaning and shared experiences. We are the architects of our own social circles, and every small interaction is a brick in the wall that protects our health. If you were to look at your calendar for the next 7 days, what is one small social friction you could intentionally create to turn a moment of convenience into a moment of connection?